I put this together so we'd have something to talk about and have a little better awareness of how we mobilize, uh, and also to introduce a little bit more than we may have shown you before about the activation system that we currently have in place and how that works. Not and although it is true that we're looking to find a couple of type 1 duty officers to augment Dan and myself, it's also helpful to know, I think, as a responding member, what's going on at the fire station when we're doing this activation, so you kind of know what to expect. This is directly copied from the standing mobilization instruction sheet, which we all have. It's part of the CERT guidebook. It's giving the reason first, which is always good. Like, we're here to reduce the likelihood of injury while increasing our effectiveness as responders. So our first mission is always to protect ourselves first before the rest of the mission. So what's step 1 is to get the information you need if there's a mobilization. There will be a short alert that might come by email, text, or phone, depending on what buttons we push in Nixle and what's working. There's a web page. This is not in the standing mobilization instruction sheet, but this is a web page that Dan and I, as non-city employees, can actually update and put all the information about an activation in, as you'll see in a moment. So there'll be that. We also have the hotline, which is a recording, which we can put a modern. The idea there is to put some information in, and in one way or another, through one of those methods, hopefully you can get the information as to what we're doing, where it's happening, when you're expected, and what the point is. So the step 2 in the mobilization, now that you've got some information about mobilization, is to secure your home. And because that's your first priority, and you're not going to be able to do much as a responder if your family is not okay. So absolutely, I added in here that you might have a family emergency plan. And if there's an emergency that has required a giant CERT mobilization, then maybe this is the time for your family to do that plan. So have some communications plans, make sure everybody's okay there. And if that's fine, if you're secure at home, you're going to need some stuff. So we always have the CERT ID helmet and vest. I added N95 masks here because that's not just a COVID thing, that's a medical thing, and it's a smoke thing. So N95 masks I think should be in our kits at this point. Communications, radio, phone, and food for yourself. Maybe you're going to be, called to be out somewhere for 24 hours if things are really dire. So that's your equipment checklist and your mobilization instructions. We also say that, we require long pants, long sleeve shirts, closed shoes, and I would say you want to assess yourself too. Are you in a mental and physical space to be able to help other people? We not always are, so check that too. You'll want to bring your CERT pack, which has way more than we say in the mobilization instructions, but if you check the guidebook, you can see lots of information about the CERT packs of medium to giant sizes, and these are some of the things that I think are essential, and that also I think the mobilization instructions do, so it's not what I think. In the case of specific activities, the mobilization instructions say if we're going to do a search and rescue operation, bring your two-way radio and GPS if you have them. Light sources, whistles are essential for searches, and a few other obvious items there. Emergency shelter operation, be prepared to sleep and hang out. Sandbag filling, you'll probably be doing that in the rain, so be prepared for that. And you'll be using a shovel, so get those work gloves on. So what's the next step? When you've got your stuff, you know where you're going, is on the way to the CERT activation. If this is a large-scale emergency, such as Cascadia earthquake sort of thing, or possibly floods, you would do a neighborhood damage assessment would be our standard procedure. So what homes have moderate or major damage. And if you've got the damage assessment form in your pack, you can fill that out. It makes it easier on the team when you get to the command post. And the mobilization instructions allow you to prioritize immediate need around you. In other words, if you're feeling that you need to, provide some first aid where you stand, or disaster medical where you stand because people have fallen down next door, then that's your priority. We're not, no one's asking you to bypass people in need. So you report to the staging area. At this point, you have on your helmet, vest, and CERT ID. We always sign in first. That's first. Sign in is first. And then you may have to wait. So as the mobilization instructions point out, this is a good time to check your equipment, test your radio, and maybe do some just-in-time training. Here's some audience participation. Who can suggest some just-in-time training you might do while waiting to be activated while you're in the staging area with other CERT members? Anybody? Just
practicing radio skills.
Radio skills, good.
Talking through the triage.
Looking through the triage. Daniel? She took yours. I know how it is. Anybody else? See if I can think of one.
I've got another.
Yes.
Talking about how to move stuff off of people or carry people.
Carries, exactly. So just-in-time training, there's a lot that can be done there. So you're not just sitting around, and it might be a while before the team, which might be your follow volunteers, has assembled, given themselves roles, assess the situation, and come up with a safe plan to deal with it. The mobilization instructions also say, do not go out on your own. Even if you're wearing a CERT vest, you are not CERT unless you are actually on the CERT team, following CERT directions and the directions of professional emergency responders wherever you encounter them. So that's the standing mobilization instructions. Any questions about that? Should be fairly familiar stuff. Okay, good. Well, I thought it's interesting. Going through this and turning into slides made me realize it could use some updating. So maybe the leadership committee can take a look at that at some point. And there is a number of redundant things in there too that I thought could be tidied up. Okay, now here's the secret sauce part, which is activation. I'm going to talk about. So a few years ago, I updated some of our information we had in light of the fact that we had volunteer duty officers, and in trying to come up with activation that was effective and efficient for you folks. And here's what we have as an active system, which I have used a couple of times. What are our goals of activating the CERT? Well, we need to be efficient and clear, like I said. You need to have, every member needs to have enough information to decide whether they're responding. And that's not obvious what that is necessarily. They need to be ready and equipped when they get there for the equipment they're supposed to bring. And it's nice, although we don't always manage this, to know how many people are going to show up. So our activation system includes a system for RSVP. In general, what we do is get and post details on the web, and that's one step, and I'll explain why. We record details in the hotline, although we don't always do that. We always get a short message out on Nixle, because that's our most effective communication system. And then we collect RSVPs via a little telephone system we've got set up. And there's the cat. So there's two things that Dan and I don't do, which is we don't update the CERT main webpage because it's a city login, and also AM 1700 requires staff people. Okay, give me 15 seconds and talk amongst yourselves. I'll be right back.
The cat called.
I was wondering if anyone had little cards, kind of laminated cards, or knew where to get them for those kind of things that we were just getting strapped on with the triage, like the going all the steps in triage?
Yes, I believe I have some in my CERT pack. It may be a laminated sheet of that form that Tim was showing. I haven't looked at it for a while, frankly.
Okay.
Were you asking about the flow chart particularly?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and having a laminated copy of that.
Oh, that'd probably be good. Yeah. Yeah. There is one thing that I think is nice to get, and you can get these online, is I
We
think
really
this has
want to
Trish in it,
that.
is the CERT Write in the Rain book. And let's give it a test here. It's got markings. It's got stuff. I hope the person doesn't have an arterial bleed. They're not going to make it. It takes me this long to get to it. Yeah. There we go. Page 7. I skipped right past it.
Where'd you get that, Paul?
I think I ordered it on Amazon, actually. So this doesn't use actually it gives more context, which is helpful. But it does give a procedures, like starting asking if the person can respond, has a neat picture of the obstructed airway concept, and talks about controlling bleeding. So it's a little detailed, but it's a nice little version of the information. I'd probably be more likely to look at it during that just-in-time training. And did I mention that the flowchart, at least it's not laminated, of course, but at least I get you a PDF there that was with the meeting announcement. Okay, moving on. So I mentioned this web address, members.nationalcert.org/go. It is a web page that can be edited right from the front end as you're looking at the page. If you're signed in and you have permission to edit pages, which is a system that I set up. So, and you may have been to this site for this. We keep the calendar there. We have downloads and other things there. But if you've logged in, you get a gear button and you click edit, and then you're at the template, which I'll show you. So this is the template. And I see at the bottom here, it's got status. So the first one we put is, CERT activation. And then you have to start filling in things that you need to know. When is it? What in general are we doing? And when is not an obvious thing. Like when does, how much time in the future is reasonable to give people time to get there, but soon enough to get the job done that we need to get done. So picking an optimum time is tricky. We may or may not be working for the fire department, so it might be Jackson County Search and Rescue might be another agency. So who we're working for, what is the staging area address, and who we're reporting to. And so I like to pull up this form on whatever I've got in front of me and then start asking questions of the battalion chief going, hey, how long do we expect to be here? Or, are we running our own show or is somebody else running the show? That's where the models come in. And are we going to be inside? Or what's the conditions there? Got a little weather report link, just handy, that's live, so you don't have to do anything there. And who is being called out exactly? Is it everybody in National Insert? Is it the radio people? Is it the only one base because we want to just get a few people to something? And then the other part of that form is what equipment are we requiring, if we're requiring anything special they should bring, and whether or not we're updating the recording. So just to go back through that, it's literally a page you can just type into, even though it's a web page, if you're signed in and permitted. And once you fill in these things, you've got all the information that anyone could need to do an activation. I think that one of the things that's not quite, it's the duration, right? So we've got the stop time, that's very important too. Another thing, the only other thing that might be missing here is is there a second shift? Are we asking for additional people, additional time? That's something you might have to add to it, or maybe you're going to announce that later. All right, so I get all the information. This tells me that I've gotten all the information I need to do the activation. I know when it is and everything else. We hit the save button down at the bottom here, and that is on the air. Nothing else needs to happen. Anybody can go to that page and see it. If we follow our standard procedure, someone we'd call in the hotline, type in the code, and record some information. We have a template for that. It's in our pack for the activators, the duty officers, which is this is a template. This is an attempt to be complete, but remember this is a recording, so you're not necessarily having to listen to the whole thing, but it's complete to give you enough information to activate without having to get to the web or an email or anything else. That's our template, and down at the bottom here, it's got this weird phone number. That's a Google Voice number that I set up. If you leave a message there or you send a text there, it gets emailed to the CERT duty officers instantly. And that's our RSVP system. So all you have to do is type your name in, text your name to that if you're coming, and then we can look down our emails and go, okay, these 10 people are coming. And if you leave a voice message, the voice messages are not easy to pick up because for various reasons, but if you're slow and clear with your name, Google's very good about turning into text, and we get the text. Nixle. So Nixle is our big activation system, as you know, and this is the one that gives me the ability to send everybody that's active an email. And the same system is used by just checking another box to send a text message and either a voice recording that you can make on the web or text to a voice computer message, although I prefer the recording because computer voices are, for one thing, they don't know which syllables to emphasize. So this is the text message format. And this is really short because it's got to be. We picked out some one of these types. These are all of our possible missions, which are probably too many now, but these are our missions that we were thinking of at the time. So you put in one of these mission types, you say CERT activation, you say what time the command post is opening, and you say where it is. And then you link to the web page because that's got more information for people, and give the phone number of where to RSVP if we're doing that. Once that's typed in, it's just a matter of seconds to hit a button and it goes out to everybody's phones. And we have a choice of three levels. The top level, the emergency level, is really obnoxious and rings all your devices at once. And the low level is a little nicer and not as annoying. So we can sort of try to save the big level for top emergencies. Nixle can, as I said, also do an email and web message. It's all at the same time. So we pretty much, this is just a substitute in case you didn't get the text message. Same format. And so we have Nixle has a place where we upload names and phone numbers and addresses of the CERT members. So it's not part of this public Nixle system where you type your zip code into Nixle or any of that. It's not the public system at all. It's our own system, even though it's still called Nixle. And if you change your phone number or email, and currently, if you don't tell me, then Nixle won't get updated. I'm updating Nixle and I'm keeping track of that for eventual the CERT manager to eventually update the CERT database. And our backup system is the phone tree. It still exists, although might be a year old right now. So I don't have and there's might be one or two phone numbers wrong in there, but it's generally there. You should have the phone tree for your base. If you don't, you can download it from the main CERT webpage, the city webpage, with a password. And if you don't know what the password is, you can ask me. So please do have that, and we'll keep that as our backup system. Let's see. Mentioned that already. Like I said, the CERT homepage is a city website, so we don't have, Dan and I don't have access to that as the duty officers, but we could ask the fire personnel to update that. But it's a lot easier for us to get to the other page and put everything in there. And AM 1700, as you know, is a public system, so we probably wouldn't use that for CERT activation unless there were no other way to contact you. But it is a possibility, and so if the lights all go out and cell phones all turn off and the internet is all gone, we've got AM 1700. Ariane, did you have a question? You can unmute if you do. No.
Sorry. Yes, I've changed my home phone. Well, the Ashland HomeNet changed my home phone without explaining. I don't know why. But so for Nixle, what do I do? And I have a new cell phone number.
Email them to me, and I will update Nixle.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. That is the activation system. Hopefully it makes sense and it's not too complicated and gives you an idea of why, if you get activated, why you're getting what you're getting. Any questions or comments about that? Dan? No, I'm kidding. Any questions or comments? Let's see. You can just shout out.
It's Dana. I'm realizing that I would have to go dig and look in papers to know what website to look at or the phone number or who to text. So I'm thinking of just making a note in my notes app on my phone, so I have all that right there.
Good idea.
Just a thought.
I'm not sure what you mean. If you get an activation, you'll get the information you need in the activation. Like it'll give you the web page.
So I wouldn't need to know members.ashlandcert.org/go, and I wouldn't need to know the 541-708-1123. It would all be provided to us?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. You just saved me from creating it.
I invite you, though, to take a look and see what the web page looks like, just for your edification. But since it is there in that non-active state, but no, you don't have to know it. Members.ashlandcert.org is nice to know, and I'll talk about that during announcements. Other questions? Doug?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Tabitha, go ahead.
Yes, awesome. That template for the voicemail message, I think it was a couple pages back in your PowerPoint.
Mm-hmm.
I remember getting that a couple of years ago, and we were spontaneously, without any preconceived warning, given this. And the thing that I focused on was the sentence, CERT members who received an activation message are asked to sign in, ... Because I had not received an activation message prior to this thing, I didn't do jack. So
that's interesting. Yeah. Yeah, that might not be the best wording there. I'll give that some thought. I know that this came up we've had in the past had times when like we didn't want 50 people, we wanted 10. I'm talking like 15 years ago. And so we'd say, well, we'll only activate certain people, but then anybody can call the hotline. So, and maybe you did the right thing. That might have been one of those cases, but yeah, that wording wouldn't be appropriate if this was the only activation. That's true.
Yeah.
Okay. Good point.
Thanks.
What else? Okay. I will put in the plug again. We could use a couple more people, although we'll probably be picky. But there's opportunity to become a high-level CERT person who's able to activate CERT with the authorization of the fire department, obviously. Okay, let me skip forward then. I do have one bit more here since we have a few more minutes, and then we'll get to Chris. The on-scene, people have asked me this in the past, have felt they didn't really feel like they knew what to do when they get there. So I just did a couple of slides about this, which is the first person if there's not a organized activation, which if this is the earth shakes and you've spontaneously gone to your base, then the first person on scene is a team leader. And always think about sign in first, because that's the first thing we do. And CERT member safety is our top priority, which sign in is part of. Remember our motto, which I love that Tim brought that up spontaneously at the beginning of his talk. So doing the most good for the most people. And remember our size up. That's our key to both being safe and being effective. And I want to remind you that in the CERT manual we have checklists for every position, from including the ICTL or team leader checklist that we've developed specifically for CERT to give you an idea of what needs to get covered in order to do the most good for the most people. So grab your checklist if you've got one or have that in your pack, and when you go, I don't know what to do next, hopefully the checklist will tell you. That is it for this little presentation. I thank you for listening.